Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her ship, looking out at the stars through the large window. The ship was called the Harmony's Edge, and it was one of the best ships humanity had ever built. Sarah had been captain for 3 years now, and she loved her job. Her crew was good, and they worked well together. The ship was floating near Kepler Station, a huge space station that belonged to no one country or planet. It was neutral ground where all the different alien species could meet and talk. Sarah's job was to represent humanity in these meetings. She was a diplomat, someone who helped solve problems between different groups. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Cooperation Council for 30 years now. When the aliens first found Earth, many humans were scared. Stories and movies had taught them that aliens might be dangerous. But these aliens were different. They were peaceful. They wanted to work together, not fight. The council had many different species. There were the ethereals, who looked like tall, thin ghosts made of light. The crystalline beings were like walking diamonds that sang instead of talking. Mantids looked like giant bugs but were very smart and good at building things. There were others too, each strange and wonderful in their own way. At first, the aliens were surprised by humans. Earth was what they called a death world. Most planets in the galaxy were safe and peaceful. Earth was full of things that could kill you. Storms, earthquakes, wild animals, diseases, and extreme weather. The aliens could not understand how anything could live on such a dangerous planet, but humans had not just lived on Earth, they had learned to love it. They climbed the highest mountains just because they were there. They dove to the bottom of the deepest oceans. They explored the hottest deserts and the coldest places. It amazed the aliens. What amazed them even more was how peaceful humans could be. Despite coming from such a dangerous world, humans were good at solving problems without fighting. They were creative and could think of solutions that other species missed. They were also very good at understanding different points of view. Sarah remembered the first big problem she had helped solve. 2 species, the Zephyrians and the Mantids, had been arguing about who owned a group of planets. Both sides had good reasons for their claims. The argument had gone on for years, and everyone thought it might lead to war. But Sarah and her team had found a solution. They suggested that instead of fighting over who owned the planets, both species could share them. The Zephyrians were good at farming, and the Mantids were good at mining. Planets had both good farmland and valuable minerals. By working together, both species could get what they needed. It took months of careful talking and planning, but it worked. The Zephyrians and Mantids signed a treaty and became friends instead of enemies. The council praised the humans for their wisdom and creativity. Sarah had felt proud to represent her species that day now. 3 years later, Sarah was preparing for another council meeting. This one was supposed to be routine, just regular reports from different species about trade and exploration. But something felt wrong. She could not explain it, but her instincts were telling her to be careful. Her second in command, Lieutenant Rodriguez, walked up to her. "Captain, we're getting strange readings from the station's defensive systems. They seem to be powering up." Sarah frowned. "That's odd. There's no threat here." Maybe it's just a routine test, but even as she said it, she did not believe it. In all her time here, she had never seen the station's weapons systems activate during a council meeting. The whole point of Kepler Station was that it was a peaceful place. "Captain," her communications officer called out, and picking up coded transmissions between some of the alien ships. "The signals are encrypted, but there's a lot of chatter going on." Sarah's feeling of unease grew stronger. "Try to break those codes. I want to know what they're talking about." She activated her command console and sent a message to the other human ships in the area. There were 12 other vessels, mostly diplomatic ships like hers, but also some cargo ships bringing supplies and trade goods. Altogether, they carried about 3,000 humans. "All human vessels, this is Captain Chen. Please report your status and maintain readiness protocols." The responses came back quickly. All ships were fine, but several other captains reported the same strange feeling that something was wrong. Captain Martinez of the cargo ship New Horizons said his sensors were picking up unusual energy readings from several alien vessels. Sarah tried to contact Kepler Station directly. "Kepler Control, this is the Harmony's Edge. We're detecting some Unusual activity. Can you confirm everything is normal? The response took longer than usual. When it came, the voice sounded different than the usual friendly station controllers. Harmony's Edge. Everything is proceeding normally. Please maintain your current position. Something in the tone made Sarah's skin crawl. She had been in space long enough to know when someone was lying to her. She turned to her tactical officer. Quietly raise our shields and prepare our engines for emergency acceleration. Don't make it obvious. Before the officer could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. On the main screen, Sarah saw something that made her blood turn cold. The defensive guns on Kepler Station were turning toward the human ships. At the same time, several alien vessels that had been peacefully floating nearby were also charging their weapons. All human ships, this is Chen. She shouted into her communicator. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Emergency. Protocols now. The first shots came from the station itself. Massive energy beams lanced out toward the closest human ship, small diplomatic vessel called the Peacemaker. The ship's shields flared and then collapsed under the intense firepower. Sarah watched in horror as the ship exploded, taking all 200 people aboard with it. Return fire, Sarah ordered, but she knew it was hopeless. The human ships were not warships. They were built for exploration and diplomacy, not fighting. Their weapons were small and meant mainly for defending against space pirates, not for fighting major battles. The Harmony's Edge shook as enemy fire hit their shields. Sarah gripped her chair as the lights flickered. Round them, the other human. Ships were trying to fight back or escape, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Captain! Her communications officer shouted over the noise. I'm getting messages from our colonies. They're under attack too. Coordinated strikes across human space. Sarah felt a cold fury building in her chest. This was not a random attack, or a misunderstanding. This was planned. The aliens had betrayed them completely, attacking not just the ships here, but human civilians across the galaxy. She opened a channel to broadcast to all ships, human and alien alike. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human vessel Harmony's Edge. For 30 years, humanity has served this council with honor. We have been your friends, your allies, and your partners. We have solved your problems and helped keep peace in this galaxy. This attack is not just murder. It is betrayal of everything the council claims to stand for. Another blast hit her. Ship and Sarah could smell smoke in the air. She knew the Harmony's Edge was dying, but she was not finished talking. To whoever planned this attack, know this. You have made a mistake that will echo through history. You think we are weak because we chose peace. You think we will forgive because we have always been willing to talk instead of fight? You are wrong on both counts. Humanity remembers its friends, but it never forgets its enemies. The ship's power was failing now. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the bridge. Most of her crew was dead or injured. But Sarah kept talking, making sure her words were being recorded and transmitted. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We survived ice ages, plagues, floods, and fires. We learned to work together because we had to, or we would all die. We chose to be peaceful because we knew the cost of war. But if you force us to remember what we really are, if you make us choose between extinction and fighting back, then you will learn why Earth is called a death world. The final shots came from 3 directions at once. Sarah's last sight was of human ships exploding all around her, brave people dying because they had trusted in friendship and peace. Her last thought was a prayer that someone, somewhere, would survive to carry word back to Earth. The aliens who watched the human ships die felt satisfied with their work. The Deathworlder problem had been solved quickly and efficiently. Now, they could return to the old ways where the founding species of the Council controlled everything and newer members knew their place. They did not understand that they had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. They had awakened something that had been sleeping peacefully for 30 years, something that remembered exactly how to survive, and the whole universe was trying to kill it. The war they thought they had prevented with their surprise attack had actually just begun. and humanity was about to remind the galaxy why evolution had turned a peaceful species into the most dangerous predators their world had ever produced. The small ship called Lucky Break limped through space toward Earth. Half of its engines were dead. Its hull was cracked in 3 places, and the life support systems were failing. But Captain James Park kept the ship moving. He was the only survivor from the attack on Kepler Station, and he carried the most important cargo in human history: the truth about what had happened. Park had been on a supply run when the attack started. His ship was small and fast, built for carrying medical supplies and emergency equipment between human settlements. When the shooting began, he had tried to help, but his ship had no weapons. All he could do was watch as his friends died and record everything that happened. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. Park had to use old hyperspace routes that most people had forgotten about. The main routes were being watched by alien ships, and he could not risk being caught. He ate emergency rations and drank recycled water. While his ship slowly fell apart around him, when Earth finally appeared on his screens, Park almost cried with relief. He sent an emergency signal to Earth Defense Command and requested immediate landing at the military spaceport. Within minutes, fighter ships surrounded his vessel and escorted him down to the surface. Park was taken directly to the Global Defense Council, the group of leaders who made decisions about Earth's military and safety. He was exhausted and injured, but he refused medical treatment until he had delivered his message. In a room full of generals, admirals, and government officials, he played the recordings from Kepler Station. The room was silent as they watched Captain Sarah Chen's final speech. They saw the human ships exploding, heard the alien voices calmly discussing the elimination of the Deathworlder threat, and witnessed the cold, calculated murder of 3,000 innocent people. General Patricia Williams, head of Earth Defense Command, was the first to speak after the recording ended. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were full of anger. "How many of our colonies have been attacked?" 17 confirmed so far, Park replied. "Maybe more. They hit the communication stations first, so we lost contact with most of our settlements. But from what I could see before I escaped, they were targeting everything: research stations, mining operations, farming colonies, even the medical facilities." Admiral Chen Shao, older brother of the murdered Captain Sarah Chen, stepped forward. His face showed no emotion, but everyone in the room could feel the rage burning inside him. "How many survivors?" "Unknown. Some colonies might have fought back or evacuated, but, sir, this was not random violence. They'd planned this for months, maybe years. They knew exactly where all our ships and settlements were. They knew our defense patterns. This was a coordinated attack designed to wipe us out completely." The room erupted in angry voices. Some officials demanded immediate military action. Others wanted to try diplomatic contact with friendly alien species. A few suggested that Earth should prepare for invasion and focus on home defense. General Williams raised her hand for silence. "The first question is simple. Are we at war?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, Earth's chief xenobiologist and expert on alien cultures, stood up. She was a small, quiet woman who usually stayed out of military discussions, but now she spoke with absolute certainty. "General, we were at war the moment they fired the first shot. The aliens believe they have solved a problem by eliminating a threat. They expect us to either surrender or retreat to Earth and hide. They think we will eventually send messages asking for peace talks and accepting whatever terms they offer." "And why do they think that?" Admiral Zhao asked. "Because that is what every other species in galactic history has done when faced with superior force. The galaxy has been peaceful for so long that most species have forgotten how to fight real wars. They solve conflicts through negotiation, economic pressure, or limited military action. No one fights to the death anymore." Dr. Warren activated a holographic display showing the galactic map. "But they have made a critical error in judgment. They are treating us like a typical galactic species. They assume we think like them, that we will act like them. They do not understand that we come from a world where surrender meant extinction." General Williams nodded slowly. "What are you recommending, Doctor?" "I am recommending that we do exactly what they do not expect. They want us to react emotionally, to charge in with whatever ships we have, and get destroyed in glorious but pointless battles. Or they want us to send peace envoys that they can reject while appearing reasonable to other species. Dr. Warren changed the display to show Earth's industrial capacity. Instead, we should do what humans do best. We should adapt, plan, and survive. Earth's population is 8 billion people. Our industrial capacity is greater than most entire star systems. We have been building peaceful trade ships and exploration vessels, but our shipyards can build other things. You are talking about total war, Admiral Zhao said quietly. I am talking about total survival, Dr. Warren replied. They have declared that humanity is too dangerous to exist. They have attacked our civilians, destroyed our peaceful ships, and murdered our diplomats. They have made it clear that there is no place for us in their galaxy as we are, so we need to become something else. General Williams looked around the room. All in favor of activating Protocol Cerberus? Every hand went up. Protocol Cerberus was humanity's secret plan for exactly this situation. It had been developed years ago, when the first contact with aliens had made some people worried about humanity's security. Most people had forgotten about it, thinking it would never be needed. But the plan was still there, waiting, within hours. Secret messages went out to every human settlement, every research station, every mining operation, and every exploration ship. The messages were simple. Condition midnight. Initiate protocol. Cerberus, the long peace is over. On Earth, changes began immediately. The massive factories that built cargo ships and passenger vessels retooled their production lines. The asteroid mining operations that had been extracting materials for construction projects suddenly had new priorities. Research stations that had been studying alien cultures turned their attention to alien weaknesses. Most importantly, people changed. The average human citizen had lived their entire life in peace. They traded with aliens, worked alongside them, and considered many of them friends. But humans had excellent memories, and they remembered their history. They remembered what their species was capable of when survival was at stake. In the military academies, old textbooks were pulled from storage. Books about strategy, tactics, and warfare that had been considered historical curiosities were suddenly required reading. Veterans who had served in the small conflicts that occasionally erupted between minor species found themselves promoted. Two important positions: Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's leading expert on alien biology, was given unlimited resources and told to study every piece of information humanity had gathered about their enemies. He worked with teams of scientists to analyze alien physiology, psychology, and technology. They were looking for weaknesses. But they were also looking for something else: ways to exploit the fundamental differences between species that had evolved on safe worlds and species that had evolved on Earth. Meanwhile, scattered across the galaxy, surviving humans began receiving coded messages. Freighter captains, research scientists, miners, and traders who had escaped the initial attacks found instructions waiting for them in hidden data caches. The messages told them where to go, what to do, and how to contact other survivors. The aliens who had planned the attack began to notice that something was wrong. Human space had gone completely silent. No ships entered or left. No communication signals came from human settlements. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. Some alien leaders found this silence disturbing. They sent scout ships to investigate, but the ships found empty colonies and abandoned space stations. Everything valuable had been removed. Everything else had been destroyed to prevent it from being useful to enemies. The aliens concluded that the humans had indeed retreated to Earth, probably to mourn their losses and eventually negotiate for whatever scraps the galaxy was willing to give them. It never occurred to them that the silence was not the sound of defeat. It was the sound of a species preparing for war on Earth. Admiral Zhao stood in the command center that had been built deep underground. Around him, thousands of people worked at computer stations, coordinating the largest military mobilization in human history. The walls showed displays of ship construction, resource allocation, and strategic planning. Admiral, his aide reported, the first phase is complete. All surviving humans have been contacted and given their assignments. Industrial conversion is ahead of schedule. The research teams have identified 17 potential weapon systems and 12 tactical advantages we can exploit. Admiral Zhao nodded, but his expression remained grim. How long until we are ready? Conservative estimate, 18 months for full combat readiness. But sir, we could begin limited operations in 6 months if necessary. It will not be necessary. The Admiral replied. The aliens think they have one. Let them think that for as long as possible. When we strike, it will be with overwhelming force and complete surprise. They wanted to eliminate. 6 months had passed since the attack on Kepler Station. In the great council chambers of the Galactic Cooperation Council, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered for their regular meeting. The mood was pleasant and relaxed. Trade was flowing smoothly. Most species reported good profits from the expansion into former human territories. Chancellor Vexai of the Ethereal Collective floated at the head of the assembly. His form shimmered with satisfaction as he addressed the gathering. Fellow council members, I am pleased to report that the unfortunate situation with the human species has been resolved successfully. Our decisive action has prevented what could have been a dangerous destabilization of galactic order. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Crystalline Hegemony's representative chimed in harmonious tones. The mining rights in former human space have been distributed fairly among all council members. The transition has been smoother than expected. What about the silence from human territory? Asked Ambassador Kretak of the Mantid Confederation. Our scouts report that all human colonies and stations appear to be abandoned. Should we be concerned? Chancellor Vexai's light patterns shifted to show dismissal. The Deathworlders are simply processing their defeat. This is normal behavior for species that have been properly disciplined. They will emerge eventually, with surrender terms. Until then, we benefit from their absence. The other aliens nodded in agreement. In their experience, defeated species always followed the same pattern. Shock, withdrawal, negotiation, and finally acceptance of their new place in the galactic hierarchy. The humans were just taking longer than usual, probably because they were more stubborn than most species. What the aliens did not know was that human space had indeed been transformed, but not in the way they imagined. Far from any trade routes or inhabited systems, in the cold darkness between stars, something new was taking shape. Commander Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of the battle station Prometheus, a massive construction that had not existed 6 months ago. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of dozens of ships and hundreds of smaller installations scattered throughout the void. What had once been empty space was now humanity's secret stronghold. The construction had been a miracle of human engineering and determination. Entire asteroid fields had been moved and reshaped. Mining ships had stripped raw materials from dead worlds. Factory ships had worked around the clock to build components that were then assembled in the darkness between stars. Status report, Alina commanded. Her second-in-command, Major Rodriguez, consulted his datapad. All primary facilities are operational. We have 37 major shipyards, 85 supply depots, and over 200 defensive installations. The fleet currently stands at 400 combat vessels, with 50 more completing construction each week. Alina nodded. The numbers were impressive, but she knew they were just the beginning. What about intelligence gathering? Excellent progress. We have agents embedded in 12 major alien civilizations. They're reporting on everything: military capabilities, political structures, economic systems, and most importantly, weaknesses. The intelligence operation was one of humanity's greatest advantages. While the aliens celebrated their victory, they had not noticed that some humans had never left their territories. Traders, researchers, and diplomats who had been deep undercover in alien societies simply stayed where they were and began gathering information. Dr. Sarah Kim, formerly of the Cultural Exchange Program, had spent 5 years living among the Ethereal Collective. The aliens thought she had been evacuated with the other humans, but she had simply changed her identity and continued her work. Now, Instead of studying alien culture for peaceful purposes, she was mapping their government, structure, and identifying key targets. Similar operations were running throughout alien space. Humans who had spent years building friendships and trust with alien species now used those relationships to gather military intelligence. It was not pleasant work, but everyone understood what was at stake. "Show me the target analysis, Alina." Ordered. The main display changed to show detailed information about alien military forces. The picture was both encouraging and sobering. The aliens had powerful weapons and large fleets, but they had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Their tactics were outdated, their strategies were predictable, and their coordination was poor. "The Ethereal Collective has the largest fleet," Major Rodriguez explained, "but their ships are designed for intimidation and patrol work, not serious combat. The Crystalline Hegemony has better weapons, but they rely heavily on automated systems that can be disrupted. The Mantids have good defensive positions, but they have grown complacent." Lena studied the data carefully. "Capabilities? How quickly can they mobilize if we attack? That is their greatest weakness. The council system requires consensus for major decisions. In the event of an attack, they would need to debate, vote, and coordinate between species. With different technologies and tactics, our analysts estimate it would take them weeks to mount a unified response to a surprise attack." This was exactly what Alina had hoped to hear. The aliens' greatest strength, their peaceful cooperation, was also their greatest weakness when it came to war. They had built a system designed for peace, not for the rapid decisions and brutal efficiency that war required. "And our new technologies?" Dr. Webb appeared on the communication screen from his research facility. "Commander, I am pleased to report breakthrough success in several areas. We have developed new hyperspace jump techniques that allow us to emerge from jump space inside planetary systems, bypassing traditional detection networks. Our new weapon systems exploit fundamental differences in alien biology. Most importantly, we have ships that can operate in conditions that would destroy alien vessels." The technological development had been humanity's secret weapon. While the aliens assumed that humans would use the same basic technologies as everyone else, human scientists had been developing new approaches based on their unique perspective. As a Deathworld species, human ships were built to operate in the extreme conditions found near Earth: intense radiation, powerful magnetic fields, extreme temperatures, and corrosive atmospheres. Alien ships designed for the safe conditions of typical worlds could not function in such environments. This meant that humans could fight battles in places where aliens could not survive. They could hide their fleets in the coronas of stars, in the radiation belts of gas giants, or in the toxic clouds of industrial worlds. To alien sensors, these places were simply empty space because no one could survive there. "Excellent work, Doctor. How soon will the new equipment be ready for deployment?" "The first squadron of enhanced vessels will be ready in 2 weeks. Full fleet conversion will take another month." Lena felt a cold satisfaction. The aliens thought they had eliminated the human threat, but they had actually created something far more dangerous. They had forced humanity to remember what they really were: survivors who could adapt to any environment and overcome any obstacle. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "It is time to remind the galaxy that humans are still here." The next day, 3 alien patrol ships in the former human territory of Sector 7 simply vanished. They were there one moment, sending routine reports, and gone the next. Their emergency beacons activated for exactly 17 seconds before going silent when rescue ships arrived. They found nothing. No wreckage, no debris, no sign of what had happened. The ships had simply disappeared, as if they had never existed. Similar incidents began happening across the galaxy. Always small targets, always in remote areas, always with no witnesses or evidence left behind. Aliens began to worry that some unknown threat was hunting their ships. But they never suspected the truth. The truth was that humanity was testing its new capabilities. Each attack was carefully planned and executed to gather information about alien response times, communication protocols, and search patterns. The humans were learning how their enemies thought and how they reacted to threats. "Chancellor, Bexhai received the reports with growing unease. How many ships have we lost? 17 confirmed missing in the last month, his aide reported. All in remote areas, all with no explanation. Pirates unlikely. The missing ships were well-armed patrol vessels, not cargo ships. And there were no demands for ransom or claims of responsibility. The Chancellor's light patterns shifted to show deep concern. Could the humans be responsible? Impossible. Our scouts confirmed that all human settlements remain abandoned. There has been no activity in their space for months. Besides, even if some humans survived, they lack the military capability to threaten our patrol ships. The Chancellor was not entirely convinced, but he had no other explanation. Double the patrols in sensitive areas. Send another message. To Earth, demanding their surrender. The message was sent, but like all previous communications to Earth, it received no response. The silence from humanity continued, and with each passing day, it became more ominous. The aliens had expected fear, anger, or desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, they got nothing at all. In her command center, Alina watched the alien response with, Admiral Chen Shao stood in the war room deep beneath the surface of Earth. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and tactical data. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at computer stations, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. All fleets report ready, Admiral, his chief of staff announced. Operation Thunderstrike is ready to begin. Chen looked at the main display showing the Ethereal Collective's home system. After 8 months of planning and preparation, humanity was finally ready to strike back. But this would not be a simple revenge attack. This would be a demonstration that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Begin the operation, Chen ordered, light years away. In the cold space between stars, the human fleet prepared to move. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were built for war, designed by a species that understood violence. In ways that peaceful aliens could not imagine. Commander Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution. The ship had been built from the hull of a captured ethereal dreadnought, but human engineers had completely rebuilt it. Where the original ship had elegant curves and artistic designs, the human version was all angles and armor. It looked like what it was, a weapon of war. All ships, this is Commander Vasquez. Today we begin the second phase of this war. Aliens think they have won because they struck first. They think we are defeated because we have been silent. Today we show them what silence really means. We show them what happens when you attack a Deathworld species and give them time to prepare. Around the Retribution, over 200 human warships moved into attack formation. They were organized into groups, each with a specific target and mission. The aliens had many worlds and stations, but they had made a critical error. They had spread their forces thin to occupy former human territory. Jump in 30 seconds, the navigation officer announced. Alina felt the familiar tension that came before battle. She thought about Captain Sarah Chen, whose death at Kepler Station had started this war. She thought about the 3,000 humans who had died in that first attack. She thought about the colonies that had been destroyed and the civilians who had been murdered. Jump. The human fleet disappeared from normal space and entered hyperspace. But they were not using the standard jump points that all galactic traffic used. Human scientists had developed new techniques that allowed them to emerge anywhere in a star system, even close to planets and space stations. The Ethereal Collective's home system was called Primalux, a beautiful arrangement of 7 worlds orbiting a gentle yellow star. The third planet was the ethereal homeworld, covered in crystal cities that glowed with inner light. Glass around it, massive space stations served as centers of government and trade and culture. The system's defenses were impressive by galactic standards. Weapons platforms floated at the edge of the system, ready to detect and destroy any threat. Patrol ships moved in regular patterns, watching for pirates or other small-scale problems. The main defense fleet orbited the homeworld itself, ready to respond to any emergency. But the defenses were designed to fight conventional threats using conventional tactics. They were not prepared for what happened next. The human fleet emerged. From hyperspace, not at the system's edge, but inside the asteroid belt between the fourth and fifth planets. The jump technique was new and dangerous. It required precise calculations and perfect timing. One mistake could destroy an entire ship, but it worked. Suddenly, over 200 human warships appeared, where nothing should have been able to exist. The asteroid belt was full of radiation and debris that would destroy normal ships, but human vessels had been built to operate in Earth's hostile solar system. The conditions that would cripple alien ships were just another day at the Office for Human Technology. The ethereal defense forces had no time to react. Their sensors detected the human fleet, but the readings made no sense. How could so many ships appear in the middle of the system? How could they operate in such a dangerous environment? "This is Admiral Chen Xiao of the Terran Liberation Fleet," came the broadcast on all frequencies. 8 months ago, you attacked human diplomatic vessels and murdered 3,000 innocent people. You destroyed our colonies and tried to wipe out our species. You did this because you thought we were weak. Today, you learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. The first human attack came from an unexpected direction. While the main fleet held position in the asteroid belt, smaller ships had used the radiation and debris as cover to get close to the orbital defense platforms. The platforms were powerful, but they were designed to fight at long range. Human ships appeared next to them and opened fire at point-blank range. The platforms died quickly. The ethereal fleet tried to respond, but they faced an impossible choice. To attack the human ships in the asteroid belt, they would have to enter the radiation zone themselves. Their ships were not built for such conditions. Within minutes of entering the belt, alien vessels began losing power and suffering system. Failures. The humans had turned the asteroid belt into a fortress. They could fight from inside it while their enemies could not even survive in it. It was like fighting an enemy who could breathe underwater while you could only breathe air. Fleet Admiral Luxtari, 2 human vessels, came a transmission from the ethereal flagship. "We demand you withdraw immediately. This system is under the protection of the Galactic Council. Your presence here is an act of war." Alina laughed out loud. "Admiral, you started this war 8 months ago when you murdered our diplomats. We are not here to start anything. We are here to finish it." The human attack was methodical and devastating. Working from their protected position in the asteroid belt, human ships picked off ethereal vessels one by one. The aliens tried various TACTICS long-range bombardment, fighter attacks, even ramming attempts. Nothing worked. The humans had spent months studying ethereal technology and tactics. They knew exactly how the alien ships worked, what their weaknesses were, and how their crews would react under pressure. The aliens, meanwhile, knew almost nothing about human capabilities. When an ethereal cruiser tried to ram the Retribution, Elena's ship simply moved deeper into the asteroid field. The alien ship followed, trying to complete its attack, but the radiation quickly overwhelmed its systems. The cruiser's crew was forced to abandon ship as their vessel died around them. "Rescue the survivors," Alina ordered. "We are not here to murder helpless enemies." This surprised the ethereals. In their experience, species that attacked others showed no mercy. But the humans carefully collected escape pods and prisoner ships, treating captured aliens with respect and proper medical care. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the ethereal defense fleet had been completely destroyed. Their orbital platforms were gone, their space stations were crippled, and their homeworld was defenseless. But not a single human ship had been seriously damaged. Alina opened a channel to the planet below. "People of Prima Lux, this is Commander Alina Vasquez of the Terran Liberation Fleet. Your military forces have been defeated. But this is not a conquest. This is a lesson." On the planet's surface, billions of ethereal beings watched their screens in shock and fear. Their invincible fleet had been destroyed by the species they thought they had eliminated months ago. 8 months ago, your leaders decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist in the galaxy. They attacked our peaceful ships and murdered our civilians. They did this because they believed we were weak. Today, you have seen the truth. We were not weak. We were choosing to be peaceful. Alina paused, letting her words sink in. Your leaders made this choice for you without asking what you wanted. They started a war and then lied to you about winning it. Now you must live with the consequences of their decisions. The transmission continued to broadcast across the entire ethereal collective. Every world, every station, every ship received the same message. This is what happens when you attack a Deathworld species and give them time to prepare. We have been patient, we have been careful, we have been thorough. This is only the beginning. As if to prove her point, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Human fleets were attacking alien positions in dozens of systems simultaneously. The crystalline hegemony's mining operations came under assault by ships that emerged from gas giant atmospheres. Mantid trade convoys found themselves facing raiders, who seemed to know exactly when and where they would be traveling. The galaxy was learning that humanity had not been hiding in defeat for 8 months. They had been planning, building, and positioning forces for the largest military campaign in galactic history. We tried to be your friends, Elena concluded her broadcast. We tried to be your partners. We tried to solve problems without violence. You rejected all of that. You chose war instead of peace. Now you will learn what war looks like when it comes from Earth. The transmission ended, but the message was clear. The species that had tried to eliminate the Deathworlder threat had instead created something far worse. A Deathworlder enemy with nothing left to lose and 8 months to prepare for revenge. The age of human peace in the galaxy was over. The age of human dominance had begun. 2 years had passed since the attack on Kepler Station. The galaxy was no longer the peaceful place it had once been. Trade routes that had operated safely for centuries now required heavy escort fleets. Space stations that had never needed weapons were installing defense systems. Species that had not fought wars in 1,000 years were desperately trying to remember how. The Galactic Council met in emergency session aboard the Fortress Station Sanctuary Prime, the most heavily defended location in known space. Around the massive conference table sat the representatives of 43 species. But the mood was very different from their meetings 2 years ago. In its place was fear, anger, and the bitter taste of defeat. Chancellor Vexhai of the Ethereal Collective looked older and dimmer than before. His once bright form now flickered with exhaustion and stress. The human attacks have cost us over half our military fleet. Similar reports came from around the table. The crystalline hegemony had lost their primary mining worlds. The Mantid Confederation's shipyards had been systematically destroyed. Dozens of smaller species had surrendered completely rather than face human military forces. How is this possible? Demanded General Kredek of the Mantids. 2 years ago, the humans were diplomats and traders. Weapons technology, no experience with war. How did they become so powerful so quickly? First, we assumed that, because they chose peaceful solutions, they were incapable of violence. This was wrong. Humans are actually extremely good at warfare. They simply preferred not to use those skills. Dr. Zephyr activated a holographic display showing human military technology. Second, we failed to understand the implications of their death world. Origin. Human ships can operate in conditions that destroy our vessels. Human soldiers can fight in environments that would kill our troops in minutes. Human weapons are designed by a species that spent millions of years learning how to kill efficiently. But the numbers do not make sense, protested Ambassador Velinari of the Crystal Worlds. Even with their advantages, they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. How can they defeat entire fleets? Replied grimly. We are fighting an entire species that has converted their complete civilization to war production. Every human colony, every mining operation, every research facility is now part of their military machine. They have industrial capacity that matches entire sectors of galactic space. Admiral Chen Xiao stood in the command center of the massive space station that humans called Olympus Station. Built in the hidden reaches between stars, it was larger than most alien cities. Around it, thousands of ships moved in perfect coordination, carrying supplies, weapons, and troops for the next phase of the human campaign. Status report. Chen ordered TOD Elena Vasquez, now promoted to full admiral, consulted her displays. Phase 4 is complete. Our fleet. Strength stands at over 3,000 combat vessels, with 200 more completing construction each week. The numbers were staggering. In 2 years, humanity had built a military force larger than most galactic empires. They had done it by converting their entire civilization to wartime production and by using their technological advantages to capture enemy resources. What about diplomatic contacts? Chen asked. 6 have offered to switch sides completely. The remainder are still trying to coordinate a unified response, but their communication networks are compromised. This was another human advantage that the aliens had not expected. The same humans, who had once served as translators and cultural experts, were now intelligence agents, saboteurs, and spies. They understood alien psychology better than the aliens understood themselves. "Sir," a communications officer announced, "we are receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council." Chen and Alina exchanged glances. They had been expecting this moment for months. "Put it through." The holographic image of Chancellor Vexhai appeared in the command center. The alien leader looked desperate and defeated. "Admiral Chen, I am speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. We request immediate cessation of hostilities and the opening of peace negotiations." "Go on," Chen replied calmly. "We acknowledge that our actions 2 years ago. We're unfortunate. We are prepared to offer reparations for the damage caused to human colonies and shipping." Listen to the offer without changing expression. When the Chancellor finished, there was a long silence. "Chancellor, do you remember what my sister said before you murdered her?" Vexhai's form flickered with confusion. "Your sister, Captain Sarah Chen, of the Harmony's Edge. She was the first human you killed at Kepler Station. Her last words were, a warning that you had made a mistake that would echo through history. Do you remember what she said about the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war?" The Chancellor's light patterns showed growing fear. "Admiral, we are prepared to make significant concessions. You are not offering negotiations." Chen interrupted. "You are offering surrender terms. But you are offering them to the wrong people." The hologram changed, showing not just Chen, but the entire human command staff. The galaxy. The scale of the operation was breathtaking. 2 years ago, you decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist alongside you as equals. You tried to solve this problem by eliminating us. The Galactic Council is dissolved. The old system of cooperative governance has proven to be fatally flawed. I'd allowed a small group of species to make decisions about war and peace without accountability. You cannot simply dissolve the Council, Chancellor Vexhai protested. We represent 43 species, billions of beings. What you did to us from ever happening again? The display changed to show a detailed plan for galactic reorganization. All military forces will be unified under human command.
Oh.
All strategic resources will be managed by human administrators. All interstellar communication will be monitored by human intelligence services. This is conquest, the Chancellor accused. No, Alina replied quietly. This is protection. You proved that the galaxy cannot be trusted to govern itself peacefully. There will govern it for you. And if we refuse? Chen gestured to the displays, showing human fleet positions. Then you will learn what total war looks like when it comes from a species that cannot afford to lose. Humanity was not interested in returning to the old system, where they could be betrayed and attacked whenever other species felt threatened. They were creating a new system where such attacks would be impossible. You have 48 hours to surrender your military forces and accept the new administrative structure, Alina announced. Species that comply will be treated fairly and allowed to maintain their internal governance. Species that resist will be conquered. The galaxy wanted to eliminate the Deathworlder threat, Chen replied. Congratulations, you have succeeded. There is no longer a Deathworlder threat to galactic peace. There is now a Deathworlder guarantee of galactic peace. The transmission ended, leaving the alien leaders to contemplate their choices. They had tried to destroy humanity to prevent them from becoming too powerful. Instead, they had forced humanity to become more powerful than any species in galactic history. On Olympus Station, Ja looked out at the stars through the observation deck windows. Around him, the largest space station ever built hummed with activity as humans prepared to govern a galaxy. Do you think we are doing the right thing? Alina asked quietly. Chen was silent for a long moment. 2 years ago, I would have said no. 2 years ago, I believed in the old system of cooperation and trust. But they taught us that trust is a luxury that gets people killed. To be their partners, they made us their enemies. We tried to solve problems through discussion. We solved problems through murder. Now we solve problems through strength that no one can challenge. And if they surrender, then we keep the peace. We make sure that no species ever again has the power to launch surprise attacks on civilians. We make sure that the galaxy is safe for everyone, whether they like our methods or not. Lena nodded. Slowly, it was not the future that humanity had wanted. But it was the future that the galaxy had chosen when it decided that Deathworlders were too dangerous to trust.